on TV, then cry when we call it. We ain't taking orders, we make the audit. This ain't safe space rap, this is open season. Let's go. They can't close the jar, we already broke the seal. Now the truth's out and it's looking real. Mic lit like a fuse and the beat's on blast. We don't kneel, we don't flinch, we don't move last. America first, no mask, no leash. We the voice in the static, the storm in the breach. It's the jar openers podcast, no chill, just heat. We don't do sheep, we don't repeat. They say stay quiet, we talk loud. Built for the storm, we don't back down. Yo, CNN crying, big tech spying. Career politicians still looting and lying. They sell the fear, we cut the wire. Cancel us, nah, we rise higher. Truth ain't dead, it's your shadow banned. But we bring receipts, they can't withstand. From the border to the bank, from the vote to the war, we expose every crack that they try to ignore. Jar openers cracking open the lies, pulling back curtains with red-pilled eyes. Trust the science, but can't define a woman. Orange man bad, that's the whole damn sermon. Vote blue, stay poor, hate your flag, blame your race. Nah, miss us with that the red closing jar. We already broke the seal. Now the truth's out and it's looking real. Mic lit like a fuse and the beat's on blast. We don't kneel, we don't flinch, we don't move last. America first, no mask, no leash. We the voice in the static, the storm in the breach. It's the jar openers podcast, no chill, just heat. We don't do sheep, we don't repeat. They say stay quiet, we talk loud. Built for the storm, we don't back down. It's not just a show, it's a battlefront live. Every mic is a mission and we thrive in the fight. They can't close the jar, we already broke the seal. Now the truth's out and it's looking real. Mic lit like a fuse and the beat's on blast. We don't kneel, we don't flinch, we don't move last. America first, no mask, no leash. We the voice in the static, the storm in the breach. It's the jar openings podcast, no chill, just heat. We don't do sheep, we don't repeat. They say stay quiet, we talk loud. Built for the storm, we don't back down. It's not just a show, it's a battlefront live. Every mic is a mission and we thrive in the fight.
What is up, beautiful people? It's good to be back. Had a nice, refreshing couple of days off. Went to Universal Studios in Florida. Enjoyed a couple of nights of the Halloween horror nights. Horror. I said horror. For my 21st anniversary, the wife and I had a good time. But it's nice to be back home, where I prefer to be with the dogs and all the creature comforts that we have at home, right? I slept good last night. Came home, was completely tired. I think we stayed up till 4 a.m. 2 nights in a row because the HHN is what they call it, stayed open until like 2 a.m. and then just getting out of the park, getting some food at the end of the night, trying to track down chase down whatever's open. Taco Bell closed while I was in the drive-thru. That was annoying. Ended up getting some ramen noodles from the hotel that night for dinner, but it is what it is. Sleeping on a hotel bed is always 50-50 at best. If you're like me, you got to have a particular type of bed, otherwise I just toss and turn all night, right? And so yeah, it was good. It ended up being fine. Got back yesterday, was super tired, basically crashed out, then ended up staying up late again after crashing out for a while. So yeah, I want to remind everybody, thank you, Jamie, to hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe. Also, hit the top right and click all messages so you can see everybody's messages. Otherwise, it's going to just give you the top messages, and you're going to be missing out on some good chat. Also, we have a Discord that you can join. That link is in the description. And if you're over on Rumble, please follow. And on X, same thing goes for you as well. Appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Trying to plan for the show, I got up, and first thing I did this morning was start putting together stuff. And I've just been pulled away one thing after another. Neighbors needing help with stuff. One neighbor wanted to buy some eggs. I had another person come by wanting to buy some eggs. Getting the chickens all, getting back in town, getting everything back in order after not being able to do the daily maintenance on all the things that got going on here on the homestead. Was tricky. I want to say what's up to the chat. Hey Dave, TNT, Jamie. I think I saw Captain and Earl's daughter. Captain Willie Grimm and Earl's daughter. Ruth is here. Did I say TNT? Jay is here. Good to see you guys. If I missed you, I apologize. I'm scrolling up here. I think I see everybody. TNT Motors over there on Rumble. Appreciate it. I like to see the Rumble audience grow a bit more, to be honest with you. But YouTube is where it's at. So appreciate everybody for being here. Hopefully you're having a good weekend. We're halfway through it. If you're a college football watcher, it's a big day for you. Not so much me. I'm not into college football, but I do love the NFL. Looking forward to watching some games tomorrow and kicking back. I was debating doing a show tomorrow night, but no, I'm going to just relax, go to church, get my mind right for everything so I can just focus on doing the show on Monday in the capacity that I like to do. Oh, TNT with a $21 super chat for the happy anniversary. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's been a great 21 years. I can tell you that much. My wife is my best friend, and I believed I missed you. That's hilarious, Jay. I'm my wife's best friend, and we just love spending time together. And the 21 years has gone way too fast. And I hope the next 25 years or next 21. Hopefully, we get up to 50. You know what I mean? I look forward to seeing where this country goes and spending that time with her. One thing is funny is we always both admit to each other that we would not be married to the other if either of us was a Democrat. So it's always a fun conversation. But yeah, man, thanks TNT. $21 super chat for the happy anniversary, man. That's awesome of you. I really appreciate that. And so does my wife. Papa Smurf, what's up, man? Haven't seen you for a little while, but it's good to see you, brother. Thank you guys for all the happy anniversaries and stuff this week. But tonight we're going to talk about, just briefly, some Democrats named in the newly released Epstein files. Just a little bit of news on that. I've been out of the loop for the last few days, so forgive me if some of this stuff is a little bit old. I want to talk about the Comey indictment a little bit, and then some of the updates that came out today. DNI Director Tulsi Gabbard uncovers some hidden documents that show Obama doctored intel to make it look like Trump and Putin stole the election in 2020. So, the Democrats, they have to believe in Russian collusion. Otherwise, their whole thing just breaks down. You're staying alive? Well, that's the trick, isn't it, Papa Smurf? But it's good to have you here. Did I miss Elmo? I saw Elmo in Discord, but no, okay, he's not here yet. Yeah, Comey is relevant for sure. So Bill Maher said some things that are worth addressing, kind of three different topics. I called out the Democrats. He mentioned something that the mainstream media won't talk about, which is a total surprise to me. And then one other thing. Trump has authorized the use of troops to, he's ordered troops to go to Portland and to protect ICE from Antifa and other domestic terrorists. As we know, Trump has designated Antifa a terrorist organization. We're gonna go back a little bit. I don't know if you guys saw this because it was a post that was deleted by Trump. Some people are calling him senile or acting like maybe it was supposed to be a text message or whatever. But he posted this on Truth Social, basically calling out Pam Bondi we're going to have a look at that and then kind of reflect on what has happened in the wake of that. It seems like it might have got her a little fire under her butt, which is a good thing. We wanted to see some arrests. We've been dying to see some arrests. Now we hope the arrests amount to jail time and whatnot. Fani Willis is back in the news. Let's see here. As it relates to also the Georgia State Election Board votes to subpoena the 2020 election physical ballots, envelopes, and stubs from Fulton County, which that is where Fani Willis is the what is it? She the district attorney or I always get district attorney and AG mixed up sometimes. Maybe I don't think she's the AG. And then Kimmel's late night show returns. We're going to talk about that a little bit as well. And I don't know if I put together 2 hours or not, to be honest with you, as I read through this. So I'm going to do my best. If I can't go for 2 hours, if I don't have the stuff here in my outline, we'll go through some other stuff as well that we can just scroll X. You already got censored. It was being nice. Well, TNT, I'm sorry. Good old YouTubes. They just have it out for you. Jamie, you can't say it. You got censored. Okay, so let's start off with this one right here. This one is, well, let me share my screen. Getting back in the groove. Getting back in the groove of things. Share the screen. We'll get that there, and we'll put the chat up too. Okay. So this one's from the Gateway Pundit. Democrats named in newly released Epstein files. Media refuses to report. We kind of got a lot of that going on in this show. Wolf's friend, what's up, Wolf's friend? Good to see you. So the Democrat-led House Oversight Committee released new Jeffrey Epstein files this week that were billed as a breakthrough by who? Right? It's just more of the same. And that's why I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this until they get the list, until the list is followed up by arrests. I mean, Epstein files are stupid, in my opinion. But, nevertheless, I'm going to read through this one. Instead, the files revealed almost nothing conclusive. I mean, that's what you'd expect out of the Democrats, right? They're just grasping at straws, hoping that the sheep follow and repeat their nonsense. But just a handful of selectively chosen appointments that do more to smear political opponents than uncover the truth, right? So they just basically picked and chose what they wanted to release, trying to make themselves look better and try to make Republicans and Donald Trump look bad, right? But the documents drop names like Elon Musk, Steve Bannon, and Peter Thiel, figures whom Democrats often target without establishing any wrongdoing. And which is funny, they threw Steve Bannon in prison. They turned on Elon Musk, and I guess Peter Thiel is. I didn't know that he was a random guy that Democrats often target, but he's the dude that runs Palantir, which is behind some scary stuff, honestly. Very demonic, it seems like to me. But even Elon Musk, back in the day said Trump is in the Epstein files. Was he talking about, I guess, he's in them too, right? But anyways, the implication was clear that use Epstein's notoriety as a political weapon, but what Democrats and their media allies failed to mention is that these so-called meetings happened during a period of when Epstein was trying to invest tens of millions of dollars into tech startups. And so Epstein was trying to get, connected to anybody and everybody that he could. And if you had a conversation with him, of course, you're in the file, right? Regardless of what your interaction was. Epstein was meeting wealthy investors with venture capitalists. Is neither unusual nor incriminating. It is standard business. Okay, that's basically what I just said. That context, however, did not fit the Democrats' narrative. Instead, instead of focusing on the bannability of these businesses. I can't read. Guys, my mind has been on vacation for a few days, so bear with me here. Instead of focusing on the bannability of these business connections, they chose to highlight names that would make headlines and embarrass Republicans. Of course, I mean, what else can they do, right? Oh, that'd be cool, TNT. By the way, TNT mentioned what he tried to type there on YouTube that got censored over on Rumble, which Rumble allowed it, and I put it on screen for you guys to read. Let's see here. The committee's strategy is transparent, turned the national disgrace into a partisan weapon, yet buried in the same files are names far more telling, names that the mainstream press has been reluctant to cover. Former Democrat Senator George Mitchell. Now I'm dyslexic. Former Democrat Senator George Mitchell, once a powerful figure in Washington, is mentioned explicitly in Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony. She recalls traveling with Mitchell and Epstein not to a Manhattan diner or a boardroom meeting, but on an overseas trip to Italy. According to Maxwell, the group even toured the Vatican archives together, holding historic documents such as Henry VIII's divorce request to the Pope. There was not fleeting encounters. These were not fleeting encounters. They were personal, international trips with one of the most influential Democrat senators of his era. Other connections also raised questions. In 2021, former New York Democrat Governor Andrew Cuomo partnered in a Puerto Rican marina project with his longtime friend Andrew Farkas. Farkas' previous partner in Caribbean luxury marina ventures was Jeffrey Epstein himself. So I don't know, guilt by knowing a guy. I don't know, partnered with a guy that partnered with a guy. While Democrats posture it as Epstein's shadow only falls across conservatives, the reality is that their own party leaders maintain businesses and personal ties to the disgraced financier. The pattern is telling. Instead of shining a light on where Epstein's influence really reached, Democrats selectively edited what the public saw. Typical, right? The names they highlighted were chosen to score partisan points. The names they downplayed, like Mitchell and Cuomo's circle, hit far closer to home. The American people deserve a full accounting, not a political stunt. Epstein's crimes were monstrous, and his network of connections spanned the political spectrum. Selective transparency only proves that Democrats care less about truth than about weaponizing strategy for short-term political gain. Right? They want to weaponize the tragedy for political gain. They don't really care about the truth. The truth is what they're going to tell you to believe, and that's going to be what's best for them, rather than the actual truth. If oversight means anything, it must be even-handed. That means investigating Democrats as aggressively as Republicans, exposing the real relationships Epstein cultivated with those in power, and refusing to allow one party to distort the record for its own benefit. Definitely. That goes for Republicans as well. You know what's funny is, the part that stands out the most to me about this article is that how is there a Democrat-led House Oversight Committee in anything right now? Republicans have the House, they have the Senate, the presidency. How is there a Democrat-led anything? I don't know. It's weird. I don't like it. Let's see here. What is this video?
Welcome to the Patriot Perspective. My name is Gregory Log.
Oh, okay. Now that's a 45-minute video. I was just curious what that was. All right. So that's the news on that one. That's just our warm-up. So DNI Director Tulsi Gabbard uncovers hidden documents that show Obama doctored intel to make it look like Trump and Putin stole the election, and this is wild. I'm enjoying how maybe we're gonna get some answers about the 2016 Russiagate stuff and the 2020 election as a whole. Right, that was kind of the reason, the catalyst behind January 6th, the meeting of January 6th. We wanted answers. We wanted a little bit of time looking. We just wanted 20 minutes of our elected leaders' time looking at the situation which they wouldn't even give us that, right? And so now we're looking back at it, and I appreciate that. It looks like it appears, at least. But DNI Director Tulsi Gabbard uncovers hidden documents that show Obama doctored intel to make it look like Trump and Putin stole the election. Oh, what's up, Hate? Good to see you, brother. Hopefully you're having a good weekend. So Jesse Waters ran a very damning segment on the origins of the Trump-Russia hoax. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard uncovered documents that were hidden for 10 years that show Barack Obama was leading efforts to make it look like President Trump and Vladimir Putin stole the 2016 election from Hillary Clinton. Not only that, you remember Trump was saying, and they called him crazy. They still do when Trump was saying, they're spying on me. They spied on the White House after they left. They, whatever they were doing, did they leave bugs? I don't know exactly what it was. Is that people? But seems more and more valid the more information that we get that comes out. And I trust Tulsi. Obama ordered his corrupt CIA director, John Brennan, to create a fake assessment. This ties to the former President Obama directly. This ties the former President Obama directly to Trump-Russia hoax. Dirty Obama was leading the efforts to take down Trump. Barack Obama, who offered hope and change, was actually a blight on our country's history, 100%. And then here's a bit of the interview, but I'm going to go ahead and play the video. But this is, it says, we have the proof. It was Obama leading the efforts to destroy Donald Trump. So much more. So much for hope and change. Right here should be enough evidence to lock up Obama, Brennan, and Comey for years. So let's have a look at it.
Fox News alert, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, releasing a bombshell report today that shows a conspiracy by a sitting president, Barack Obama, and his intel agencies to sabotage the president-elect, Donald Trump, brainwash the electorate, and undermine the legitimacy of an election.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't.
Gabbard got her hands on a House intel report that's been locked away in a CIA vault for almost a decade. Investigators spent over 2,000 hours looking into how the Russia hoax was born, interviewing 20 CIA and FBI officials. And it turns out that the Obama administration doctored the intelligence to make it look like Putin and Trump stole the election. A month after Trump beat Hillary, Barack Obama wasn't satisfied with his intelligence reporting and ordered his CIA director to create a new assessment of how Russia interfered with the election. This was a highly unusual move. John Brennan handpicked 5 CIA analysts to write the assessment, and they were siloed. None of them knew what the other was doing.
That's crazy. Handpicked 5 separate agents, and then they were not allowed to talk to each other. That's pretty wild. They siloed the CIA analysts. Okay. So let's Jay, you're making me laugh. Who's going to convict Obama? Whoever does better be really good at not drowning in shallow water, right? Like their chef. I'm sure he walked in and saw something he wasn't supposed to see. That's the assumption.
And only one analyst was in charge of drafting this report. There was nothing routine about this, and it was a rush job to publish before Trump was sworn in. Nothing was coordinated with the other intelligence agencies either. Basically, this was home cooking for Barack Obama. There were 4 key elements from the assessment that were repeated over and over again and formed the basis of the Russia hoax and the Robert Mueller witch hunt. 1, that Vladimir Putin wanted Donald Trump to win. 2, Putin took action to help Trump win. 3, the Russians had blackmail on Trump. That was the Steele dossier. And 4.
Well, but before he says number 4, remember they also tried to say that Trump was in a Russian hotel and the P video with the hookers or something like that. I mean, they spared no expense.
That the Russians tried colluding with the Trump campaign. None of any of this was ever true. There was no reliable intelligence to support any of these allegations. Senior CIA officials repeatedly refused to traffic in these allegations, but they were repeatedly overruled by CIA Director Brennan and FBI Director Comey, who insisted that they be pushed, even without verifiable evidence.
Before he continues there, yeah, PPK. It also just doesn't make sense that Russia would have wanted Trump to win when Hillary was the one that sold Russia our enriched uranium. She was the one that was striking deals with Russia. She was the one that was literally involved, favorably involved with Russia. Whereas we saw what happened with Russia under Trump's first term, which was nothing. As soon as he was out of there, what did Russia do? They invaded Ukraine. It's crazy. Oh yeah, of course. That's a good point there, Jay. The hotel he owns in Russia or the golf course he owns in Russia, of course he's going to visit. Yeah. You're right. Hey, that's my theory. Yep.
The Obama administration cherry-picked the intelligence, lied about their sources, misquoted sources, didn't corroborate their claims, suppressed intelligence that ran counter to their narratives, and even used anonymous internet postings. Rank and file CIA admitted what they were doing violated their own tradecraft standards. There was a massive pressure campaign that came right from the top. CIA analysts say they received unusual directives from political appointees, the CIA director, and Obama himself. This is how the Russia hoax was born.
Donald Trump knows that the Russians helped him win in 2016.
Putin hated Secretary Clinton so much that the flip side of that coin was he had a clear preference for the person running against the person he hated so much.
It was Russia in a very systematic way tried to interfere in the election and to try to advance the prospects of Donald Trump being elected.
Jay.
This was such a malicious disinformation campaign perpetrated on the American people that at one point, 60% of Democrats believed the Russians hacked our voting machines to help Trump win the White House. What this report actually shows is that the Russians just wanted to create chaos and undermine Americans' faith in democracy. Solid intelligence suggested that Vladimir Putin didn't care who won. He had no preference. But like most people,
and you know, that's funny. If the actual intelligence shows that Russia just wanted to create chaos, who helped push and move forward that agenda? It was the Democrats when they tried to use the Russian collusion thing against Trump. It exactly did what Russia wanted, according to the report here. So the Democrats were the ones working with Russia against the American people, against truth. Hey, yeah, gotta love how every year we get another big story about how Alex Jones was right again. Man, it's probably more often than that, to be honest with you. But yeah, you're right.
expected Hillary to win and had a little docket of compromising dirt on her, dirt that he never released. Now, if Putin wanted Trump to win, why didn't Putin drop the dirt?
There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers.
Heavy influence.
Then CIA
on the
Director
psycho
Brennan and the
part.
intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump.
Now, if Clinton was on tranquilizers like the Russians believed, why didn't they leak it to help Trump win?
How credible was the information about Hillary Clinton's power?
All I have seen is what the intelligence committee have reported through their investigation. I think the underlying point there is that we understand from intelligence what Russia said that they had. And the important point here is that if they were trying to influence the election, as President Obama and James Clapper and John Brennan, everybody said they were doing in order to support Donald Trump's election, they would have released the most damning of that information.
Obama and his spy chiefs knew that Putin didn't prefer Trump over Hillary, but they cooked the intelligence to make it look like he did. Obama and his intel spies knew that Putin didn't collude with Trump and that he didn't even direct his people to help Trump win. But they put it out there anyway. In a sense, Barack Obama did exactly what Putin wanted, undermined Americans' faith in free and fair elections and caused chaos in our country. Barack Obama, the CIA, and the FBI were the ones doing what our enemy wanted.
Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former
The
President
evidence,
Obama?
correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Even 2 years later, after the election, Barack Obama was still pushing a hoax he knew wasn't true. And he knew it wasn't true because he helped manufacture it.
They're undermining our alliances, cozying up to Russia. What happened to the Republican Party? They're cozying up to the former head of the KGB. Actively blocking legislation that would defend our elections from Russian attack. What happened?
Who was cozying up to the head of the KGB? Like I just explained, the Democrats were actually pushing forward the agenda, according to the reports, that Russia wanted to sow distrust in the system. Who pushed that propaganda? It was the Democrats. It was Barack Obama. They all knew. You're not a free-thinking individual if you think that Obama, Hillary, Comey, Brennan, some of these other folks weren't having some type of conversations about these things.
Now, I don't know if it's possible to indict a former president for actions he took while in office. I'm not a lawyer, proudly. But Brennan, Comey, and others may have severe liability.
Oh, yeah.
Trey Gowdy says we know for a fact that Brennan committed perjury when he lied to Congress.
Director Brennan, do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier?
Yes.
I don't.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings?
Yes.
Applications?
I have no awareness.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
Yes.
Why not?
Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the
No, we didn't. Because we didn't. Duh.
corpus of intelligence information that we had. It was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence community assessment that was done.
Lie.
It was not.
No, that's a lie. Whatever happens to these guys is not revenge. It's accountability. And it's time for people to pay the price.
That's right. It is time for them to pay the price. And it seems like it's starting, right? Let me see here. I need to I should have put this next. Let me move this around. Okay, well, we'll just go out of order. So you might remember, or you might not have seen this, but going back a few days, Trump posted this on Truth Social, and then he deleted it. The Democrats were trying to accuse him, and people were asking the question, did he mean to send this in a text? Did he get confused on, is he senile and not sharp as a tack? And accidentally post this on Truth Social. But he says, Pam, I reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially, quote, same old story as last time, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done, end quote. Then we almost put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past, a woke rhino who was never going to do his job. That's why 2 of the worst Democrat senators pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media and said he quit. And then, excuse me, and that we had no case. No, I fired him, and there was a great case. And many lawyers and legal pundits say so. Lindsay is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now, President DJT. And so this was a screenshot that he grabbed. Like I said, people were trying to act like, he didn't mean to send this out, but this is very obvious that he's not just talking directly to Pam. He wouldn't have made the justification. That's why 2 of the worst Democrat senators pushed him so hard. He lied to even the media and said he quit. Quitting that they had no case. He goes, no, I fired him. Pam knows that. He wouldn't have, I don't think he would have said that part. Maybe I'm wrong, but Coach D says, saying this publicly means he already said it privately many times. She's about to get replaced if she doesn't giddy up. And, I love it. I think that this was perfect to put her on blast and either light the fire under her butt or say, look, I gave you a public warning and you still didn't react accordingly. And so you're fired. We're replacing you. And so, it looks like, and like I said, forgive me, I've been gone kind of just out of the news loop since Wednesday, but we got this right here. James Comey is indicted. 2 counts, false statements, and obstruction of justice. I'll read the full text here. So I'm not sure what these counts are. We'll read through. But I don't think any of this, I'm just guessing, even has to do with him not holding Hillary accountable for the misuse of the classified information on the private servers, the smashing of classified documents and equipment, subpoenaed equipment, things like that. I think it has to do with him lying in Congress. But James Comey has been indicted on 2 counts by a grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia, false statements and obstruction of justice. Former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted on 2 of 3 counts sought by prosecutors, 1 count of making false statements and 1 count of obstruction of justice, just days after President Donald Trump issued a public demand for his Department of Justice to act now and bring prosecutions against Comey and other political foes, according to sources ABC News reported. They included the indictments here. The U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said no one is above the law, which is echoing what the Democrats have said for so long as they tried to go after Trump. Nobody is above the law, blah, 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 right? So here's a post from her. No one is above the law. Today's indictment reflects this Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment. Okay, I'm going to try that for a 3rd time. I'd hate to have to deliver a subpoena to Hillary. Jay says she got the message. That's all I care about. Indeed, yeah, certainly. That's Tinty says, I think he said what he wanted. He got the attention and he took it down. Not to be a dick. Yeah, I mean, he just got the message across and then he took it down. I'm fine with it. I definitely don't think it was a mistake or anything like that. I think that it was a shot across the bow, essentially, at Pam Bondi to get working. And so she posted, no one is above the law. Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case. And, this is an opportunity for Pam Bondi to do something that's basically unprecedented in my lifetime, it appears. Going after the positions of power accountable for misleading. Going after the big dogs, right? They like to pass the buck and they kind of pull what Comey did and not hold Hillary accountable for the violations that we all know she committed, right? And so this is a huge opportunity for Pam Bondi to break status quo and leave her mark on the history of the United States in a point where we took a turn for the better, where we finally started to root out corruption in the deep state, the whatever you want to call it, which I don't even know if this would be deep state would really apply in the way that we understand it. I mean, it just is in the leaders, the representatives whom we elect to lead, working together while appearing to not. You know what I mean? Go after me a little bit in the press, but don't actually go after me in the courts. I won't go after you in the courts in the same manner. We'll all get rich. We'll all, do well on our stocks. We'll send our kids to the same schools. We'll go to lunch together. We'll even maybe have love relationships or whatever you want to call it. But it'll be the rules for thee and then the rules for me, and we'll live like kings, you know what I mean? But this is the opportunity for her to change that a little bit. So the Department of Justice released a statement on Comey's indictment. I don't want to read it if it's going to say it here. I think they say it here. Nick Sorter posted, the lies James Comey told in Congress on September 30th, 2020 is likely reason Comey was indicted today. Comey said he never authorized anyone within the FBI to be an anonymous source about the Trump-Russia investigation. So here, let's just have a look.
Chairman Grassley asked you point blank,
it's kind of quiet.
Have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave. I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
Okay. So let me go ahead and read this quote here. The Justice Department released a statement on Comey's indictment. Quote, Lindsay Halligan, U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, announced today that a federal grand jury returned an indictment charging former FBI Director James Comey with making a false statement and obstruction relating to his oral testimony before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee on September 30th, 2020. The charges are alleged in this case represent the charges as alleged in this case represent a breach of the public trust at an extraordinary level, said U.S. Attorney Halligan. The balance of power is a bedrock principle of our democracy, and it relies upon accountability and a forthright presentation of facts from exclusive leadership to congressional oversight. Any intent to avoid, evade, prevent, or obstruct compliance is a violation of professional responsibility and, most importantly, the law. If convicted, Comey faces up to 5 years in prison. Actual sentences for federal crimes are typically less than the maximum penalties. A federal district court judge will determine any sentence after considering the U.S. sentencing guideline and other statutory factors. Watch Comey lie during the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on the 30th. Okay, so that's the video that we just watched. So yeah, he's facing multiple charges here. It's unfortunate that the max is only 5 years because I feel like the damage that he's done, this lie has been perpetuated, I don't know, for nearly 10 years now. And there's still a huge amount of the voting public who believe that Trump did collude with Russia. So this is only one thing, really. And it's still just about covering his own butt. So I'd like to see more. I'd like to see this dude held accountable for more things that he did. But it's a start. It's a start, right? Let's see here. Sorry if you guys can hear that. I got neighbors that bought a little mini bike that's super loud down the street, and They love riding that thing. I mean, they ride it all day up and down the road. But good for them. Good for them. Let's see here. And they're not kids. So I got this from Breitbart. Disbarred during sentencing. Yeah, that'd be good. This from Breitbart. Comey was bound and determined to destroy Trump after his 2017 firing. And that's something to keep in mind, is that, you know, he had a bone to settle, a bone to pick with Donald Trump, because he fired him as the director of the FBI. So during Friday's broadcast of Fox News channels, the story, Senator John Cornyn dismissed critics of the Trump Department of Justice pursuit of former FBI Director James Comey for allegations of making false statements and obstruction. According to those critics, President Donald Trump directed his DOJ to pursue Comey as retaliation for what transpired during the first Trump presidency. That's what it is at this point. And we're fine with that, especially if there was, especially considering there's a huge amount of the population that believes that Comey broke the law. We need truth. And we need accountability. And so whether you want to call it retaliatory or not, they opened Pandora's box and went after Trump in the first place. And what we've learned over all of their attempts is that Trump is actually a pretty clean guy. He didn't really break the law much, if any. You know, he has the felonies, which is all bull crap. You know what I mean? They turned a reoccurring payment to an attorney into 34 felonies. It's essentially one crime. The jury was instructed if he's guilty on any of these three things, then it's a guilty verdict. The three things weren't even necessarily the same crime. It was just a complete kangaroo court under a Democrat-ran judge, prosecutor, in a heavy Democrat district. Right? He didn't get a fair trial. That's not how the American justice system is supposed to function. But I wouldn't be surprised if those end up going away. But yeah, eye for an eye at this point. You started it. We're just trying to finish it. We'll get to the bottom of the truth. And, you know, to the winner be the spoils. TNT, all justice is retaliatory or it would be preemptive. Yeah, that's true. That's true. The three crimes are never even stated in court. Yeah. So, according to those critics, President Donald Trump directed his DOJ to pursue Comey as retaliation for what transpired during Trump's first presidency. Quote, was it completely different? Okay, so now we're into the interview, and I'll go ahead and play it. Sign in to confirm I'm not a bot. Oh, give me a break. All right, well, give me 1 second. Which one am I on? Give me a second here. I don't even have a Breitbart account. YouTube? Sorry, guys. This is something that I haven't encountered yet before. See if I can pull it up. Breitbart's YouTube channel. Not trying to play that. Oh, and I accidentally hit the X instead of the make it bigger. Okay, I'm gonna start over. Sorry, guys. Can you guys hear that motorcycle going up, that mini bike going up and down the street? Yeah, you're like, that's a good point, TNT. It's a good point. You'd like to see Comey get sued in civil court for the cost of his Russiagate BS. Yeah, definitely. We know the special whatever. Okay, you can't hear the mini bike. Good. It needs a muffler or something. Oh man, they post a lot. Sorry, guys. Cornyn discusses former. Okay. See if I can find the right one. Looks like they clipped it up. Darn it. It's on Fox News, actually. That's pretty lame. They're making me sign in, although I am signed in. All right. Okay. Well, I guess we won't watch that. My bad, you guys. I'm not going to sign up for a Breitbart account right this second. Let me just see this. Maybe I'll just play the clips. Subpoenas, please.
It's pretty.
Now it's asking me to verify my age on YouTube? What? Oh, that's a new one. They really don't want people to watch this. All right, well, it's not going to happen. That messes up some of my future videos. I didn't see this one coming. Sorry, guys. I know this is great entertainment for you. Okay, so can I read through it? All right, I guess I can read through some of it. So I have a quote. Was it completely different? Senator Cornyn asked FNC host Martha McCallum if efforts to criminally prosecute then former President Trump were different from the indictments announced earlier in the week regarding Comey. Cornyn replied, absolutely not. The director Comey's right. Absolutely not. And Director Comey's right. I mean, he's entitled to a trial and the presumption of innocence, but it's clear to me, Martha, that once he was dismissed as FBI director, he was bound and determined to destroy President Donald Trump, and he came close to doing it. But because of the president's incredible resilience under all that pressure, he was ultimately unsuccessful. But I think there needs to be accountability, particularly at the highest levels of law enforcement, the Texas Republican U.S. Senator added. The FBI director should be somebody who follows the law under all circumstances, not cutting corners and potentially committing criminal offenses or letting their friends get away with criminal offenses, Hillary. it's the P in the background. Turn it off. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, bot check because of what I was trying to do. Well, I have the jar openers YouTube account open, signed into on Brave, and then I keep my channel signed in on Chrome. And so I haven't verified my age on the jar openers account. I've kind of set it aside for now. I'm just working on the main channel, right? Let's see here. But yeah, that's messed up. Both links from Breitbart are making me log in, which I want to play this other clip from Bill Maher, but it's just short. I can read through it. Okay, so this one should work. So Matt Taibbi on Jim Comey says, think of the national security implications of implying that your own president is a spy for a foreign country. You cannot let that go on. Which, ironically, Obama wasn't really a spy for a foreign country, but he was working as a pawn for a foreign country, right? As he perpetuated the lie. So investigative journalist Matt Taibbi joined Jesse Waters on Friday night to discuss the James Comey indictments. Taibbi blasted Comey for leaking false documents to the leftist press, accusing President Donald Trump of being a Russian spy. This was something Comey knew was factually incorrect, and yet he took the actions to take down a sitting U.S. president. The criminal charges against Comey are much more serious than what the media is reporting. In a previous time in American history, Comey would be punished by capital punishment. Right? Welcome back. Let's see if this is there a video here? Yeah, it's right here.
And lying. And lying. What do you make of them?
Well, in the coverage, it's been kind of amazing that there's been so little attention paid to the substance of these charges. One of them is making the statement before Congress that he never authorized a third party to speak anonymously to the media. There's an entire Inspector General's report about James Comey doing just that. It's called James Comey Disclosing Unauthorized Sensitive Information. And as you mentioned, it involved Dan Richman, the Columbia professor. This is well documented. At the time it was happening, pretty much everybody in media knew that this was what's going on. They had the audacity to have this person quoted on the record as he was giving away classified information. So I don't think that part of the case is complicated at all.
Yeah, and from what Comey did, which we know he did, I mean, they doctored evidence to get warrants to spy on Trump. He basically created a conspiracy to unseat the president and sabotage the presidency. It almost seems like he was undercharged here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. People have to remember what is the substance of these lies? What were they for? These news stories that were put out there that were leaked to the press, the thrust of them was that Donald Trump was under the throes of a foreign government. He was a Russian agent. Think of the national security implications of implying that your own president is a spy for a foreign country. Would that be tolerated in any normal country? You cannot let that go on. You can't have an FBI director doing these kinds of things.
Good. I'm glad he included that. It's especially coming from the FBI director, right? The leader of the entity that is called the FBI. You can't have that person. Yeah, it was an attempted coup. Exactly, TNT. Exactly. And Wolf's friend mentioned that intent is never taken into consideration in regards to mishandling of classified documents or taking pictures on a submarine. Excellent point. Although Hillary was cleared because Comey said she had, quote, no intent, right? They didn't consider Trump's consideration in regards to mishandling the classified documents, which, you know, he was contacted by the person that's in charge of it. They then put it in a room behind a lock that was provided by the FBI. Trump didn't even have the key to it. Completely complied with the instructions, the requests. They still raided his house with the authorization to use lethal force, went through his wife's underwear drawer, went through his son's bedroom, all kinds of stuff. And then even spread the papers out along the floor in a bathroom, it appeared, or something like that. Took pictures like Trump just had them like laying around everywhere. They literally framed the entire situation and didn't take into consideration Trump's intent, and also didn't take into consideration Trump's authority to declassify. He has the authority to say, as a president, this is not classified on a moment's notice, and then it's not classified. That's just how that works. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to have conversations with world leaders without going through Congress's approval or whomever to talk about a certain subject. And then it's like, who's really the representative, the president of the country that we elected if he can't just declassify and talk about something on a moment's notice or not without authorization, right? And then you mentioned the taking the pictures of the submarine, which I believe it was some guy that was in the military took a picture of the submarine. They threw him in jail, right? But yeah, Hillary was cleared because Comey said she had no intent, and it was really because they're looking out for each other. They, it means she had no intent, right? Well, who's gonna enforce the head of the FBI whenever he's saying no, she's fine? There's nobody else hired. It's like, let me talk to your manager. It's like, well, I am the manager. You know what I mean? You can't go any higher. I'm talking to corporate. Well, I'm corporate. The papers weren't even Trump's. They brought the papers in to take the photo. Yeah, exactly. It was all completely staged. Multiple attempted coups there, TNT, really. Attempt after attempt. 2 failed impeachments as well. Jay said, I figured Melania would wear a new pair every day. She only has a drawer full of brand new underwear. That's really funny. Probably true, right? Wear 1 pair of socks and throw them away. And TNT says it was the Crossfire Hurricane documents. You should have released them. Right? Why not? Why not? I'm all for it. We're their boss. How are we allowed to, how are we expected to, I should say, elect the proper representation if we don't know all the information? They work for us. You want to classify something? Well, we're their bosses. So that's really weird that the cashier at Walmart can classify something from the general manager. And nope, you can't have access to this when we're the general managers, right? Okay, he says, let's be honest, Melania deserves fresh panties every time. Jay says, I wish I had new underwear and socks every day kind of money. Yeah, for real. We're all wearing them until they come unsewn or unattached from the waistband and other things, right? All right, let's finish this interview.
And engaging these sorts of manipulations and lying to Congress about it and getting away with it.
Yeah, he basically framed him as a traitor. And what's the punishment for treason? We all know what that is. I mean, this is the worst thing you can possibly do.
Right.
James is a little bit of a drama queen. He put out a video last night. He's the victim. He's the martyr. He's going to fight like hell. How do you see James Comey mentally going into this trial?
One thing I think we've learned during the Russiagate period is that James Comey has a peculiar sort of vanity that I think is often his undoing. He often thinks that he's being clever when he's not. He often thinks that he's showing tremendous rectitude when he's actually looking like a phony.
Well, why is that? Because he's gotten away with everything that he's done up till this point. He thinks that his stuff don't stink, right? And he's above the law. He is the law. So it's time that he faces the repercussion of breaking those laws, right? TNT says underwear feel best at 7 years, but then at 8, you got to throw them away. The 7-year just never lasts.
Television, the more exposure that he gets for himself, I think actually the more it will redound to Trump's benefit. So as far as I'm concerned, it's good if he's on television more during this period.
That was so well articulated, Matt. I don't think anyone summarized James Comey the
That was a good summarization of Comey, really. I bet he was pissed off at Biden for not giving him the pardon, right? Was he given the pardon? I don't know. All I know is any of the ones that were given the pardon, it was all auto pen, and I think Brennan might have actually gotten one. And the validity of it is challengeable in my opinion. And then even so, drag them into court. Now they don't have Fifth Amendment protection of self-incrimination. So drag them in front of Congress every single day. I don't care if that's the only thing they work on for the next year. Get these people in there, make them repeat the same lie over and over and over again, stack up the charges and then throw them in prison. And if not, then they tell the truth, hold them accountable, right? They can create new laws. They can break new laws. They're not just impermeable to the law now that they have a pardon, right? I wrote a letter to the auto pen about my pardon. I haven't gotten a reply yet. Comey's a disgrace to tall men. That's good stuff. Oh yeah, I like that part. As far as I'm concerned, it's good if he's on television more during this period. Yeah, let him go on there. And they just can't help it. These guys, they just can't help it. And we're not buying it. Let's see here. I thought I had more on this. Okay, yeah, I do. So President Trump now teases that there's more indictments to come. And this is all in the wake of his letter to Pam Bondi that I highlighted there at the beginning. President Trump teases more deep state indictments to come. This is from Drew Hernandez. President Trump addressed reporters recently at the White House, expressing satisfaction over the recent indictment of former FBI Director James Comey on charges of making false statements and obstructing a congressional proceeding. While asked about potential additional indictments, Trump said that he anticipates more charges against other deep state figures, emphasizing that there will be others. He described the Comey indictment as a matter of justice rather than revenge, calling the former director a dirty cop who had long evaded accountability. Trump highlighted what he described as the weaponization of the Justice Department by Democrats against him, suggesting that the current actions are a necessary correction. And they are. It is a necessary correction. If you don't address the obvious corruption, the obvious just bullcrap that costs the trust of the American people, you can't really go much further. People aren't going to have respect for the law and the leaders at that point. So you have to course correct and start holding these people accountable, especially when it's a part of the mandate that the American people gave to you, Donald Trump, when we elected you, right? We expect you to be the pendulum that swings, the bull in the china shop, especially in this, second, last term, while we have the majority in the House and the Senate. We got to get it done. Got to get it done now. And we're down to 13 months till the midterm elections here. So they got a year to really dial it up before they risk losing the House or the Senate, which I don't think they're going to because of the gerrymandering and whatnot. And just the way that Trump is going, the way that the economy is going, I think the Republicans have a good shot. But you never know. We got to show up and vote. That's for sure. So in response to the reporter's query on further prosecutions, he hoped more deep state figures would face similar scrutiny, noting that the Comey case is just the beginning. Trump concluded by predicting more indictments for corrupt radical left Democrats. Let's go. That is what I voted for, and I believe that's what you voted for as well. I should have used that as my thumbnail. That's a good one right there. But I thought the Trump writing FAFO in the sand with shells was symbolic of Comey doing that, or he denied doing it. He just came upon it and took the picture of the 86 Trump in the shells in the sand. Right? I thought that was a funny parody, essentially, of it.
President.
Oh, this is 12 minutes long. I was curious. I'm going to click play on that. I was curious what that is. This is Drew Hernandez. He had good coverage of the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff, I believe, back when that was in the mainstream. So now, next, President Trump unleashes on Chris Wray after the FBI admits to 274 plainclothes agents on January 6th. Quote, that's 2 in a row. Comey and Wray, who got caught lying. It's not a question. I kind of said it like a question mark. As a person that was there that day, I think there was about 1 million people in DC in that area. 274 is probably on the lower end, if you ask me, but that might be all that they're willing to admit at this point. But I feel like I talked to a couple of them. Yeah, Jay says if they admit to 275, then there were a lot more. Yeah, exactly. That's my thought exactly, right? As you guys know, I've told the story, but just in case you guys haven't heard it, I left the ellipse, which is where Trump was talking, where he was giving his farewell speech, about 5 minutes before he wrapped up, just because I wanted to work my way out of the middle of the crowd, be on the outskirts before everybody just piled in down the streets. There was 2 main roads that led to the Capitol from where the ellipse was. It's kind of like the ellipse is right here, and then the roads kind of make like a point towards the Capitol, right? So people were going down both of these roads. Actually encountered Alex Jones and Owen Schroyer, which was cool. It's always cool seeing people in person, right? Especially when you didn't expect it. They were sitting there talking on a bullhorn, and this was about a 3 to 5 minute walk away from the ellipse. They weren't even at the Capitol, right? It's a 30-minute walk from the ellipse to the Capitol, and that's walking down the middle of the road because they had all the roads blocked off. If they put everybody on the sidewalk, it would have been a lot longer. And like women in body counts 3 exit. That's funny. But when I got to the Capitol, they didn't have enough porta potties around. Basically, I had to pee so bad that I waited in line for about an hour before I even got to the Capitol. It was like the closest single porta potty there, and I felt like these people that we were in line, everybody was either from Portland, which was weird, and they were always, the first thing strangers would ask you is, "Where are you from?" And me, as a person who's just generally guarded, they're asking these questions. Where are you from? You know, they want to know your name, all this type of stuff. It's like, am I talking to a cop right now? Even the people that were dressed like obviously Proud Boys. It's like, what are you asking me that for? You guys are weird. I don't know. It was odd. And so my theory is there was a lot more than 274 plainclothes agents. And by plain clothes, I think they were actually, dressed like Proud Boys, wearing the their gear. You could tell just by looking at them, right? One guy was very obviously, I can't remember the symbols that he was doing with his hands or whatever, but it was like he was saying "Free Enrique Tarrio," like all kinds of stuff like that. So yeah, 274 plain clothes. And by the way, the other part of that story is when they broke into the Capitol, it was before Donald Trump, way before Donald Trump had finished his speech. So those people that were at the Capitol weren't there to see Donald Trump. That's why it was a bunch of reporters and then a bunch of who knows who it was. It didn't happen when the mass of the crowd was at the Capitol at all. Yeah, I was talking to the cops, not knowing I was, but just suspicious of these folks, right? But I just find it interesting is more of a better word to describe it, that so many of these people were from Portland. It's like, what are you doing here from Portland? Aren't you guys a bunch of Democrat Antifa types? Like, what's going on here? It was weird. So let's see. Let's see. What else was I going to say about that? That's pretty much it. You guys have heard me say enough about that stuff, but so back to the story here. Breaking: President Trump unleashes on Chris Wray after the FBI admits to 274 plainclothes agents on January 6th. That's 2 in a row. Comey and Wray, who got caught lying. President Trump has blasted former disgraced FBI Director Christopher Wray for his blatant lies about the January 6th hoax. And Wray was the one that went after. He was the FBI director after Comey when Comey was fired. This comes hot on the heels of the FBI's shocking admission that they had a whopping 274 plainclothes agents embedded in the massive crowd of Trump supporters on that fateful day in 2021. Now, with this admission, by the way, you have to take it with a grain of salt. Everything that you saw, all the unruly people, essentially, you have to wonder, was that an FBI agent? I think they were. Like I said, the ones that were doing the worst, they did it way before Trump was finished doing his speech. And I think that's an important thing to note, because people were there to see Trump in his final speech. It was a big Trump rally, essentially. And we wanted to show our leaders, by the massive people that were outside, that we actually care about the sanctity of elections, right? I'll use a Democrat phrase. We wanted a little bit of accountability. We wanted more than radical Democrat judges throwing cases out on standing. We wanted to be heard. And that was it. That's why there wasn't one building caught on fire. That's why it looked nothing like any of the Democrat Antifa BLM riots, the mostly peaceful protests that went on in DC the year or two before, right? And even after. So let's see here. As the Gateway Pundit has been recently exposing for years, relentlessly, I was like recently for years. As the Gateway Pundit has been relentlessly exposing for years, the so-called insurrection was riddled with FBI operatives acting as agitators, not law enforcers. And that's an important thing to notice. Plain clothes is to deceive people. Why do you wear camouflage, right? You're trying to blend in. And if they were cops walking around in cop uniforms amongst a MAGA crowd, there's no excuse for them to feel unsafe. But the Blaze broke the story, quoting a senior congressional source who tried to downplay it. Quote, the number is not necessarily a surprise since the FBI often embeds counter surveillance personnel at large events. This directly contradicts the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Inspector General's December 2024 report, which brazenly claimed we found no evidence in the materials we reviewed or the testimony we received showing or suggesting that the FBI had undercover employees in the various past protest crowds or at the Capitol on January 6th. Former chief of the U.S. Capitol Police, Stephen Sund, also revealed in an interview with John Fawcett on the Great America Show Friday night that he was never told by the FBI that hundreds of their agents were deployed inside the January 6th crowds. Well, it's like, look, bro, are you not the chief of the U.S. Capitol Police? Like, you know, what's going on there? You're either lying or, yeah, lies upon lies. That's really what it is. And that's the point about being on the offense that I've talked about in the past. If you're on the offense, these people, you put these people on their heels. Now they're in self-preservation mode because they know they broke the laws. They know they lied. And they know that if the truth comes out, they're in deep shit. So, and that's what we voted for. That's why they worked so hard to prevent Trump from being elected. These people knew what they were going to be up against, right? Jay says, and there was that agent that was breaking a window, saw that he was being recorded, then blamed it on some innocent guy. Yeah, probably, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't responsible for one of the many deaths that happened on that day that was underreported. But yeah, as TNT mentions, we should be asking for prosecution of Ashley Babbitt's murderer. 100% agree. 100% agree. Oh yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to mention. Nobody had cell phone service. There was 1 million people in a 2-block radius. Nobody could make a phone call, receive a text, anything. Nobody on the ground had any idea of what was going on. The ladies are boycotting chat. Apparently. Yeah, where are they? I saw Earl's daughter, I think, earlier. Maybe she's just hanging out. Cell jammers. Well, there was some really weird equipment that was next to that porta potty that I was talking about. I was waiting at. Awkward looking, I would say 5G looking stuff, but I know what 5G looks like. These were big. I don't know what they. I wonder if I have pictures of them. Maybe I'll look through my pictures and see what I can come up with and just show it to you guys. That could be the case. That could be the case. Still jammers. Hate says Ashley Babbitt's family should sue since the feds instigated a riot that led to her death. 100% they should. Dude, they're making dinner if they know what's good for them. That's funny. Okay, so The Blaze broke his story, quoting a senior congressional source who tried to downplay it. The number is not necessarily a surprise, since the FBI often embeds counter-surveillance personnel at large events. This directly contradicts the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Inspector General's December 2024 report, which brazenly claimed, "We found no evidence in the materials we reviewed or the testimony we received showing or suggesting that the FBI had undercover employees in the various protest crowds or at the Capitol on January 6th. So you either weren't looking at the right paperwork or you're lying." Okay, and then former chief of police. Okay, yeah, Stephen Sund also revealed in an interview with John Fawcett on the Great America Show Friday night that he was never told by the FBI that hundreds of their agents were deployed inside the January 6th crowds. Like I was saying, these people are now on defense. They're not allowed to run offense against us or Donald Trump or his cabinet or anything, because they're trying to keep themselves out of jail. They're trying to keep themselves from going bankrupt. Essentially, the same things that has happened to Donald Trump, his associates, and anybody that supported him publicly, that the Biden administration, former leaders of the FBI and whatnot could get their hands on. So lies upon lies. During a committee hearing back in 2021, Senator Ron Johnson entered into the record explosive testimony of eyewitness accounts from Michael Waller detailing how he saw agent provocateurs at the Capitol. Court filing, that was in 2021. Court filings reveal the Biden DOJ admitting to at least 40 undercover operatives with the Proud Boys on January 6th. In September 2022. We learned the FBI was running spies inside the Oath Keepers too, admitted right before their sham trials in DC's kangaroo courts. That was the other ones, the Oath Keepers. I couldn't think of what their name is, but you could kind of tell who was who just by what they're wearing, right? They almost look like a biker gang or something. By November 2022, the FBI confessed to 8 informants inside the Proud Boys, and we suspect many more. Enter Chris Wray, the poster boy for FBI corruption. Back in July 2023, the swamp creature testified before Congress and flat out lied to Rep. Andy Biggs. He repeatedly lectured House Republicans and accused them of conspiracy theories for daring to suggest the FBI planted agents and informants inside the January 6th crowd. That's it. Go on the offense and you're in a better position when it comes to this stuff, right? And that's what he tried to do there. When pressure on undercover agents at the Capitol When pressed, on undercover agents at the Capitol, Wray hemmed and hawed, quote, "I'm not sure there were undercover agents on the scene. As I sit here right now, I do not believe there were undercover agents on." So a lie and incompetency along with a lie. Biggs didn't let it slide. He fired back on X, formerly Twitter, quote, "FBI Director Wray just told me he does not believe there were any undercover FBI agents in or around the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. This claim has been already debunked, included by the former U.S. Capitol Police Chief Wray will be held accountable for this lie, hopefully." On Saturday, President Trump wasted no time blasting Wray over the revelations. In a fiery Truth Social post, the commander-in-chief unloaded on Wray and the entire rotten system. Yeah, who planted the pipe thingies? And that's true too. Jay says, I'm sure those informants were inciting the gangs to do things as well, just like the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping, whole thing. It was like 5 different FBI informants, or FBI, not informants, but people, employees, agents, and like 2 innocent guys that were basically being pressured the whole time into doing stuff. Yeah, that's exactly what they do, right? Or what they CIA. But here's a quote. It was just revealed that the FBI had secretly placed, against all rules and regulations, protocols, and standards, 274 FBI agents into the crowd just prior to and during the January 6th hoax. This is different from what Director Christopher Wray stated over and over again. That's right. As it now turns out, FBI agents were at and in the January 6th protest, probably acting as agitators and insurrectionists, but certainly not as law enforcement officials. I mean, we have to assume that they weren't just being innocent bystanders, as far as I'm concerned, especially knowing what we know about the leaders of these of the FBI, right? I want to know who each and every one of these so-called agents are, and so do the American people. I'll speak for you guys and say that I believe all the American people that are interested in the truth want to know every single name of these people, where they are now in their careers, and who instructed them to do what they did and what they did that day. I want it all. I want it all. So I'm going to go back. I want to know who each and every one of these so-called agents are and what they're up to on that now historic day. Many great American patriots were made to pay a very big price only for the love of their country. I owe this investigation of dirty cops and crooked politicians to them. Christopher Wray, and then director of the FBI, had some major explaining to do. That's 2 in a row. Comey and Wray, who got caught lying with our great country at stake. We can never let this happen to America again. Trump said on Truth Social. Yeah, Ray Epps. Yep. I saw the shaman guy the day before. There was like a little gathering of people, and he was just taking pictures with everybody. I wish I would have got my picture taken with him that day, now that I look back on it. But I was just like, there was a couple people there already getting their picture, and I'm like, I'm not trying to wait in line to just take a picture with this dude. My wife was like, yeah, okay. On the phone. Yeah, Teensy says, who was the guy the cocksucker is saying to take the building? Get him to, yeah, that guy, he got a pass. And also, I believe the Nick Fuentes dude was saying stuff about going into the Capitol. I'm pretty sure I saw a video of that Milo posted a while back when Milo went on his little thing against Nick. So yeah, hopefully there's more to come. When Trump promised, or suggested that there's more to come. Hopefully it doesn't end at Ray, but we'll see. Let's see here. I have the story about the former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Son revealing that he was never told about the FBI's 274 plainclothes agents in the January 6th crowd, despite meeting with agencies the night before. The cover-up just got exposed. Former Chief of U.S. Capitol Police Stephen Son revealed in an interview with John Fawcett on the Great American News Show Friday night that he was never told by the FBI that hundreds of their agents were deployed inside the January 6th crowds. How is it possible that the top cop in charge of protecting the U.S. Capitol, the man responsible for securing Congress, was left in the dark about something this massive? Those rules for thee, right? He's not in the group. He thought he was. But on Thursday night, he's just lying. He's lying. He was informed. And Nancy Pelosi even admitted, to some of this stuff, right? On Thursday night, the FBI finally admitted that it had 274 plainclothes agents inside the massive Trump crowds on January 6th, hundreds more than previously reported. And that's for now. That's the for now report. The Blaze reported that congressional sources claimed it was not necessarily a surprise since the FBI often embeds counter-surveillance personnel at large events. But what is shocking is the FBI's steadfast refusal for years to disclose their true level of presence at the Capitol. What? Have they? Even worse, the U.S. Department of Justice's Inspector General declared in an 88-page report released on December 2024 that the FBI had no undercover employees inside the January 6th crowd. That claims now look like another brazen lie. And that's funny. It's like, it's a known thing that they disperse undercover agents in big gatherings, but then they came out and claimed that there were 0 at the Capitol building. Either the leaders were trying to get somebody killed, or, well, I don't even know. It's so many things. There's so many levels and layers to that, right? What were they really trying to do? Yeah, 274 in plain clothes, 140 in black clothes, 200 MAGA clothes agents. Yeah, exactly, right? How many were in MAGA clothes? How many were dressed as Proud Boys? How many were dressed as Oath Keepers? That's an excellent point there, Jay. You got to read between the lines, essentially, to understand what they're saying. That's a really good point. Let's see here. Former FBI Director Christopher Wray lied and lectured House Republicans for accusing the FBI of planting informants, operative agents against the massive crowd of Trump supporters on January. And it's like, we know you're lying to us. And if you're telling us the truth, why would you not send in undercover agents into this crowd when that is your typical protocol, when that is your MO? What were you trying to do? Were you hoping something would go off and you didn't want to put agents at risk? Or were you actually protecting people because they were there to incite? Interesting. Because look at what happened. Ray's statement came during a tense exchange with Representative Andy Biggs, who specifically asked about the number of undercover agents in the Capitol vicinity on the infamous day. Okay, and then we just kind of read through all that right there. So here is a bit of the interview that they mentioned. Let's just watch that.
Let me ask you this, because to me, on January 6th, you are Chief Stephen's son. You are head honcho. You are king of the Capitol. You know, it's your responsibility. It's your role to make sure everything's tied down. And you obviously did your job by trying to do your diligence beforehand and were stifled at every single moment, right? So to me, it seems, now I'm not a career law enforcement guy. I've never been in law enforcement. I probably never be in law enforcement. To me, as just a pedestrian, it seems like if I'm the FBI, if I'm the federal government, I'm going to pick up the phone and say, hey, Chief, just want to let you know, we know January 6th is supposed to maybe get a little bit crazy. We'll have 300 agents there for you. There'll be plainclothes. There'll be some guys not in plainclothes. Is that a rational thing for me to be thinking that, hey, we'll pick up the phone and say, hey, Chief, you'll have 300 guys there if you need them. Here's your point of contact for January 6th. Let us know if you need anything else.
Well, take it a step further. If they were saying that they were going to have that group in the crowd already, most likely what they'd do is they'd put a liaison up in my command center. I mean, if you're going to have that type of assets and resources deployed onto someone's jurisdiction, you're going to put somebody in their command center. So that's key. And you said something really interesting coming into that as the chief, you're kind of king of the castle. The only problem with the Capitol is the bureaucracy. Even though I was the chief of police, there was a chief law enforcement officer for the House and a chief law enforcement officer for the Senate that sat over top of me. That created the big bureaucracy that I ran into. So you'd like to think the chief could call the shots, especially with my experience. Not the case on January 6th.
Yeah, I wasn't saying it, putting the blame on you in any way.
Oh, no. I just so your viewers, kind of get a picture. It's like no other jurisdiction in the world. They really need to fix that.
Drag him in front of Congress and get those statements under oath. That's the next step. Wolfram said, did I see the comment above about the goblin? You're talking about your Greta stuff? I did. I just didn't read it because it wasn't it's a little bit off topic, but I'll read it now. Muslims in Greta Thunberg's flotilla have turned on her because one of her gay crewmates publicly stated they were gay in an online post. And so the Muslims turned against him, I guess. She had to jump onto a different boat. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, good old Greta. How dare you? Make sure to hit that like button, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, you guys. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. You know, this is something I was wanting to do too. I think I have some free memberships that I can give away. Let me do that right now while I'm thinking about it. If I have them. Guess not. I feel like it's been over a month since I've done that. Just asking me if I want to join, become a member of my own channel. By the way, shout out to all the members. I noticed a few people signed up for memberships. Must be from some of my standalone videos because it didn't pop up during the live. So shout out to those of you guys that bought memberships that I didn't see. I was looking at my main page today and there was some names I wasn't familiar with. So I appreciate those of you guys who are supporting the channel. That's really awesome. How's it going, Patsy Ford? Good to see you. I was just trying to see if I could give away some my monthly free memberships. Doesn't look like it. Maybe next time. Maybe next time. Let's see. So where was I at? Okay, so this was breaking today. The FBI brass fires more than 15 agents who were photographed kneeling during the George Floyd protests and riots in D.C. So they weren't even plainclothes agents. These are people that were just in solidarity. And these are the folks that are willing to infiltrate a MAGA crowd, right? In plain clothes. So good for Kash Patel on getting the rot out of the agency, right? The FBI raided the home of former president of the United States over made-up offenses. This is the same president whom the FBI attempted to prevent from winning the 2016 election and then attempted to remove from office with the Russiagate scam during his first term. FBI leaders of the corrupt Obama-Biden administration hired a Russian and others to use, excuse me. Oh, first time you ever caught the live? Well, welcome in. I'm happy to see you. We have a nice growing little community around here. Do have a Discord if you like to plug in further. I see Wolf's friend is trying to do the only person that can post links in chat are Chris. I have the links turned off because I don't want people trying to come in here with crypto scams and stuff like that. Wolf's friend end up getting people to click a link that gives you some kind of virus or whatever, right? Just trying to look out for you guys. But FBI leaders from the corrupt Obama-Biden administration hired a Russian and others and used their made-up information to attempt to remove Donald Trump from office during his first term. At least 14 FBI whistleblowers in 2022 approached Rep. Jim Jordan with allegations of misconduct and abuse within the Bureau under Christopher Wray's leadership. Rep. Jordan received information at that time about retaliation against at least one whistleblower and a purge of conservative employees. Well, eye for an eye at this point, right? Jim Jordan said security clearances of conservative employees were being revoked as punishment. In September 2022, insiders at the FBI told the Washington Times that the agency is becoming more political by putting liberal agents in charge through promotions and punishing or firing agents who support conservative causes. The outlet noted. They said this institutionalizes a liberal bias in the upper ranks of the nation's premier law enforcement agency. In one high-profile example, an FBI agent on duty demonstrated solidarity with Black Lives Matter marchers in Washington by taking a knee as the protesters passed. The agent was rewarded with a promotion to a supervisor rank. Oh, man. Back to the old DEI hiring policies, right? The BLM march in Washington in 2020 was part of the protests and riots that swept the country in response to police killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Some law enforcement officers began kneeling with BLM protesters in Austin, Texas, Portland, Oregon, Los Angeles, Coral Gables, Florida, Buffalo, New York, and elsewhere. Among 6 on-duty agents in full FBI gear who took a knee for BLM protesters in Washington was a female agent who later was promoted to the number 2 supervisory post in the Washington field office. Interesting. So in 2020, after the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis, BLM protesters sparked riots and demonstrations around the country. In a show of support for BLM protesters and rioters, several law enforcement officers, including FBI agents, cowardly took a knee. I don't know if it's cowardly. I think it was because they were paying homage, right? It was right along with their political agenda, with their beliefs. And, you know, we talk about how scary it is to see these nurses and doctors and these people that were out there essentially celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. And what would happen if you were one of their patients and they found out that you voted for Trump? Would you get the same amount of care? I don't think so. And now you have law enforcement agents basically in that same boat. And you wonder if they would uphold the law to protect you, to protect your rights in the same manner that they would for somebody who's out here, rooting for Antifa or even throwing, water bottles full of urine at them and stuff like that. I mean, it's just crazy. Meanwhile, especially with the law enforcement aspect, MAGA has typically been pro-cop versus the BLM, the Antifa Democrats were against the, law enforcement, right? I can't remember what the saying that they were always saying, but it was very politicized. It's pretty well known. So it's really weird. I guess they're cucks of a sort to be a law enforcement agent that that supports the Democrat agenda, really. But yeah, it's when you think about getting the fair and equal treatment and the way that these people look out for each other, scary. It's scary, right? So on Friday, these FBI agents were fired from the bureau, and this is Seung Min Kim. I'm not sure who that is, but Washington AP, the FBI has fired agents photographed kneeling during the 2020 racial justice protest, AP sources say. More than 15 agents were fired for kneeling. According to MSNBC, more than 15 agents who took a knee during the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests were fired today. Current and former FBI officials tell MSNBC. Some had previously been demoted. And let me pull up the full post here. Some had previously been demoted. The sources say the agents took a knee not necessarily because they were trying to sympathize with the protesters, but because they were attempting to de-escalate a tense situation, regardless. And I think that's just a cop-out. From the beginning, their decision to do so was controversial within the Bureau. It's not clear what reason they were given for their firings. The FBI did not immediately respond to the request for comment. And they included a link to the Washington Post for the background on it. But I'm not buying the trying to de-escalate things, because you remember when Congress, it's in my intro song, Nancy Pelosi and all these folks were kneeling, wearing their like African garb to pay their tribute to BLM and George Floyd. It's just a part of what the cult behavior is. It's nothing more, nothing less. It's just a cult, and you're either in it or you're out, and they want to be in it. BLM needs to be designated as a terrorist organization, not domestic either. I'd be fine with that. TNT says, I hope that means they lost their pension too. I hope so. I really hope so. But that was not an attempt to de-escalate anything. Capitulating to people that hate you does not make them like you, right? These people they wanted all cops, was ACAB, right? All cops are bad or bastards or whatever it was. So kneeling doesn't make them like you. It's crazy. It's the same principle of what we learned from Trump's first 4 years, where he tried to appeal to the Democrats' good senses, if there was such a thing. I think he believed that there was at the time. He was constantly trying to win them over with truth and by doing things that they would actually enjoy. But no, they just hated him at every turn. That's how the phrase came out, the saying came out that if Trump invented the cure for cancer, Democrats wouldn't take it. Look at what they've been doing with Tylenol. You guys see that? Trump comes out and makes, I don't know how YouTube feels about this, but there's an association to something with Tylenol, and the Democrats come out here and they start overdosing on it because they're saying they believe that Trump said that it was not good for them, which if you've ever broke a bone and you've been given like a painkiller that has the active ingredient Tylenol, I'm not sure what it is, if it's acetaminophen or whatever, it can cause like liver failure. I'm not a doctor, but just from being told from doctors who are giving you this, like, hey, if your pain still persists after taking this, don't take more because of the other ingredient that's in it, the same active ingredient as Tylenol. It's not like a new thing. But Trump mentioned it, so now they're out there overdosing on Tylenol. One person, I think, nearly self-deleted. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. So Trump says something's bad. They think it's good. It's wild. It's wild. Let's see here. So just to finish it out, it says it's about time the FBI started clearing out the partisan trash. Good riddance. Well, the funny thing is, that saying, it's about time the FBI started clearing out the partisan trash. Well, that's what they were trying to do by firing all the conservatives and promoting all the Democrats. Wall Street says Tylenol stated 10 years ago not to take their product while pregnant. Yeah, so it's not something new. I saw a funny meme that said it was Barron, I think, whispering to his dad saying, "You should tell him that oxygen is good for them." Yeah, acetaminophen. Okay, thank you, Will's friend. Trump should say that asylums are bad. Yeah, you guys are great. Kamala did pretty well on her knees. Well, yeah, she was making like 6 figures when she was just in California, making 6 figures a year by doing like 2 committee meetings a month or something like that. Some people just get a little too ambitious. Think I could survive on that and be just fine not working. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. That's those power hungry people. But yeah, that last statement there is funny. It's about time the FBI started clearing out partisan trash. Good riddance. Well, at this point, you have to purge all the Democrats out of it, because look at how they behave. Look at their history of behavior over the last 10, 20 years, right? They're responsible for every slippery slope that's led us to this point. Let's see here. So let me close some of these down. We got 12 minutes. Man, this show's gone by fast. Let's see here. What do I want to... Well, just real quickly, Jimmy Kimmel's late night show returns to full ABC coverage after the blackout ends. A couple quick stories on this. So Jimmy Kimmel Live is set to air again nationwide after 2 major broadcast groups dropped the show last week in dispute with ABC's parent company, Disney. As you know, Sinclair, I think it was actually demanding that he gave some money to Charlie Kirk's foundation and publicly apologizes, which, like I said, I've been out of the news for the last few days, but I don't believe Kimmel has apologized one bit. And I think he actually doubled down a little bit. At least that's what he was planning on doing. But they folded. And so his Nexstar Media Group announced Friday that it would bring the late night show program back to its 30 ABC affiliates. And then hours earlier, Sinclair also confirmed it would reinstate the show to its roughly 40 ABC stations. Together, the decisions restore the program's full reach across the country. I was going to say county. I knew it was country. Okay. The blackout started after Jimmy. Okay, so we know why. We know why it started. But apparently, and that was yesterday, but apparently just 3 days after Jimmy Kimmel's big comeback, his ratings have crashed by 70%. And I think this is before the Sinclair and Nexstar Media Group added them back. So I don't know if these numbers are like legit, but I guess maybe they're going off of who watched the first night he was back on what was available versus who watched the third night he was back out of what was available. Those numbers are set to increase as nearly 70 syndicate stations will now be airing it that weren't airing it before that. But this is good. This is a good indicator of how it's going to go for him. His ratings have crashed by 70%, which Tim Pool predicted that it won't last a week. Well, no, actually, he said that he'll come back hot, and then other people were saying that it won't last a week. I think the quartering said it. But 3 days after the Democrats and the media made a huge deal about Jimmy Kimmel's big comeback, his ratings have utterly evaporated. Since the beginning of the week, he returned to air. His ratings have dropped by 70%. It looks like his much hyped return was little more than a hype. A sugar high lasts longer than this. And that's funny, because all these people that were crying for Jimmy Kimmel not to be canceled because of free speech, blah, 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 are the same people that stand up for transgender and, men and women's sports. They think the WNBA should continue to be subsidized by the NBA, but they don't show up. They don't buy tickets. They don't watch the show. They really don't care about the thing being discussed or whatever it is. They just care about winning, being loud and obnoxious. I don't know. It's weird. They have no principles. Jimmy Kimmel lost 70% of his viewers from Tuesday to Wednesday, from 6.4 million to 2.4 million. I expect Kimmel to be back below 2 million by Monday. That'll go up because they added the 70 syndicate stations. But Greg Gutfeld is already kicking all their butts in ratings again. People only tuned in to see if Kimmel would apologize, which he didn't. He can now go back to being irrelevant again. And that's what I was concerned of. I had a feeling there was conservatives that were going to actually watch to see what Kimmel was going to say if he would apologize, which is counterproductive. Just cancel these folks, give them the medicine that they have prescribed for all these years, trying to cancel everybody and debank them, and just write them off. You don't care. We don't care what he says. Read it in the news the next day. Don't give him the ratings. Don't give him a glimpse of satisfaction. At least that's my opinion. That's my take on it. The post blocked by Google. So yeah, that's the update on Kimmel. But I wanted to talk about this real quick. We're gonna run a few minutes long. Georgia State Election Board. Yeah, I really want to talk about both these things. We're just gonna run a little bit long. I was concerned I didn't have enough content, and turns out I got plenty. So the Georgia State Election Board votes to subpoena the 2020 election physical ballots, envelopes, and stubs from Fulton County. I believe that's where I said before that Fannie Willis is in. Let me pull this article up. I got a couple articles here, but earlier this month, the Gateway Pundit reported that Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene sent a formal request to the Department of Justice to investigate the 2020 election in Georgia, specifically the Georgia Secretary of State of Fulton County. This followed a July resolution passed by the Georgia State Election Board requesting that the Secretary of State and Attorney General seek the assistance of the Department of Justice to help resolve outstanding allegations, specifically SEB Complaint 2023-025. On Wednesday, September 24th, the Georgia State Election Board voted 3-1 to issue subpoenas to the Fulton County Board of Registrations, the Director of Elections, Nadine Williams, and the Clerk of the Superior Court, Shay Alexander. The subpoena will also be for the physical paper ballots, ballot stubs, and the envelopes for all absentee ballots. Let's go. We need answers. We need answers to find out what happened. Trump was the first president in history to gain votes in their second term and then also lost. We need to know what happened when the pipe burst and there was that big anomaly on the graph that everybody's seen where Biden gains a bunch, like the graph goes straight up. It's just basically an impossibility, right? Where they count a bunch of Democrat votes and there's no Republicans in it at all. So the subpoena will be, okay, so previously on Election Day 2024, the board has subpoenaed election documents from the 2020 election. However, after 9 months, Fulton County had not yet handed over the corresponding documents, subject to pending litigation. The subpoena is a continuation of the investigation in SEB Complaint 2023-025, which alleges that thousands of duplicate ballots were counted in the final tally, as acknowledged by board member Sarah Gozel, however you say the last name. However, that complaint also entails other claims, such as 17,852 ballots that were counted that have no corresponding ballot images. During the discussion, Gozel called the subpoenas a fishing expedition before board member Dr. Janice Johnston pointed out that each absentee ballot should have a ballot envelope and a ballot stub maintained. Gazel questioned, to what end are you seeking the actual envelopes? What is it you hope to discover from that? Quote, this is to complete the investigation regarding the irregularities and inconsistencies in the 2020 election, specifically pertaining to case SEB 2023-025. Dr. Johnston explained that the case was about missing documents for 20,000 votes that were part of the election day count, as well as 17,852 votes that are missing ballot images, including absentee ballots. Quote, are there allegations that the ballot envelopes are not authentic? This feels like a fishing expedition to me. Board member Janelle King interjected that if you have the ballots without the envelopes, then you can't authenticate that they're legitimate ballots. Quote, what do you propose to do to authenticate more than 100,000 envelopes? Gazel asked. Quote, for the absentee ballot, there should be an absentee ballot envelope, Dr. Johnson responded. So it's basically, they're just counting the numbers. Like, if you don't have 100,000 envelopes, then how do you have 100,000 ballots? It's as simple as that. We don't need anything else. At least that's how I'm understanding it. For the absentee ballot, there should be an absentee ballot envelope. Exactly. So Gazel followed up. So it's just about the number of envelopes, perhaps fired back Dr. Johnston. Well, apparently this person doesn't understand how math works. On October 2020, Rick Barron, then director of elections for Fulton County, ordered 770,000 election day ballots at a cost of $223,000. According to the description in the quote for Runeback Election Services, these ballots contained no stubs and were to arrive on or before October 24th, 2020. Okay, so initially this purchase, as well as an additional 144,000 ballots from Fiddler election, was claimed to be emergency ballots by Gabriel Sterling, the chief operating officer of the Georgia Secretary of State. Quote, they got hit by COVID. They were concerned they couldn't do logic and accuracy testing on the equipment. Okay, so they had to add words here. So they concerned they couldn't do logic and accuracy testing on the equipment. As a plan C, they ordered enough emergency ballots in case they had to do hand marked at all polling locations, Sterling wrote. Yeah, they got hit by COVID, right? Veteran poll manager Bridget Thorne, who is now the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, questioned the no stub portion of the order back in 2021. The quote, the stub number of ballots when a ballot is used, the stub's number of ballots when a ballot is used, the manager keeps the stub to verify it was used. The ballot then becomes anonymous for the voter. With no stubs, there's no accountability of used/unused ballots. Why would anyone order no stub ballots? Well, I can tell you the answer to that, right? There was no person represented by that ballot. Let's see here what you guys saying in chat. Did I miss anything good? I feel like we just need to not count major city votes. They all cheat. I know, right? In the end, it was a leaky toilet, Tyler. Yeah. Somebody clogged it up with, apparently maybe it was ballot stubs. They're trying to flush them. Any Republican man could have turned off the valve, right? Or just went in there with a plunger and fixed it. Oh, they bought ballots to fill out? Yeah, exactly. So there also didn't seem to be corresponding order for any envelopes in the request. The Georgia absentee ballots are different in size from election day ballots and are printed on Dominion IXC ballot marking devices. However, emergency provisional ballots are the same size as the absentee ballot, but do not have a corresponding envelope since they are cast in a precinct rather than mailed back. Since there aren't any provided records of Georgia ordering corresponding envelopes with the more than 900,000 excess ballots they ordered in late October 2020, and since Sterling acknowledged that they didn't need to use Plan C, the total number of absentee ballots should equal the number of envelopes retained, and any emergency provisional ballots should have a stub to document the usage of emergency ballots. Wow. I mean, at this point, Is there any argument against just using some sort of blockchain? Right. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy, the layers that they go through. And remember, Trump was the one that got in trouble for saying, find me the votes. He was referring to, you found a bunch of ballots for them. There's no way in all those ballots that you found, none of them were for Republicans. It is literally an impossibility. But yet, they allowed it. And then they try to blame Trump. The perfect phone call. It was a perfectly clean phone call. I mean, it had multiple attorneys, multiple people on the phone call. It wasn't like a one-on-one thing that was secretly recorded. I mean, you just have to assume that Trump is this idiot, which the Democrats do, although he has the business degree from Wharton and he's basically a, I'll stop short of saying self-made, but I mean, he's a, 5-7 times over billionaire. You don't become that by being an idiot, right? An idiot to the level that they say you are. If you're a Mark Cuban type, then maybe, yeah, but the blockchain isn't as secure as it's claimed. Yeah, you're right about that. True. Multiple people, you can have more than one like wallet type thing and whatever. So basically, paper ballots. If you can't vote in person, then you don't vote. Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking, Jay. Paper ballots. If you can't vote in person, you can't vote unless you're military and you're like deployed overseas. But then you still fill out your paper ballot and respectable Trump. I was cracking my friends up like a couple months ago on Xbox One. I was like, "Oh man, I'm coming out with them." It was funny. We were both having a good time, but I've always been reluctant to do it on the show. So I appreciate that, TNT. I appreciate that. That was me stepping out. Let's see here. Where's I at? Okay. So yeah, that's that with that story. And then Fani Willis, right? The DOJ issues grand jury subpoena for Fani Willis's travel records. Right? Since we're talking about Fulton County and then this came up, I had to go to middle school and vote like a grown-up. I know. The Democrats are always like, well, what about the whatever person? It's like, I don't know. If you can't show up and vote, then you don't get a vote. It's as simple as that. This isn't No Child Left Behind. This is an election that is important. We vote in churches here actually too. Show up and vote if you care to. Simple as that. Get a ride. There's plenty of public transportation. There's Ubers. I had somebody on X today on a post by Secretary Sean Duffy who claims that they're cutting off the new CDL licenses for foreign drivers or whatever without having a more extensive test. I'm like, why are foreigners getting driver's licenses and CDLs in the United States in the first place? Now, I know some people are here legally, but do they have the right to drive? We have Uber, we have trains, we have a lot of money invested in public transportation. I know when I go on vacation to different places, I typically just hire the rides. Like, come on, it's not that hard. It's for our safety, it's for protection, it's for back to the elections, it's for accountability. Mass mail-in ballots with no chain of command is not an acceptable way of holding an election. So Fani Willis, the Justice Department issued a grand jury subpoena for Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. Fani Willis's travel records. According to the New York Times, the travel records relate to Fani Willis's travel last fall leading up to the 2024 presidential election. Now, a little bit of background here. Fani Willis is the one that ran the RICO charges against Donald Trump and his associates, right? She's the one that was in Fulton County trying to imprison Trump on one of the many cases, like they were trying to go for him after the mortgage fraud, amongst the other things, right? There was like 4 big cases. This is one of them. She ended up lying about meeting with Biden in the White House. It later came out that they did travel to the White House. She funded trips with her boyfriend, who was the attorney that she hired. Lots of corruption, lots of trying to keep the money within my own little circle. It's a good example of how the Democrats operate just by looking at Fani Willis's life and her appointment, right? She ran on "I'm going to get Trump," much like Letitia James. Didn't really have anything else to her platform. Okay, so back to this. According to the New York Times, the travel records relate to Fani Willis's travel last fall leading up to the 2024 presidential election. Details about the federal investigation are unclear. The Times said it's unclear if Fani Willis is the target of the DOJ's investigation. In August 2023, Fani Willis indicted President Trump and 18 co-defendants for daring to challenge the 2020 election. Willis hit President Trump and the co-defendants with RICO and other charges. Last year, after a fierce court battle, Fani Willis and her entire office were disqualified from prosecuting Trump in their lawfare RICO case. This appeals court did not throw out the charges. However, Fani Willis and her office have no authority to proceed, and there was no other district attorney around willing to pick it up. That's why she was put in this place, was because she was the only person willing to. She was the only person that had nothing to lose and a lot to gain. Right. I'll have a good night, Jay. Appreciate you for being here. Good comments and everything like that, making me laugh. But let's see here. The appeals court told, no authority to proceed. The Georgia appeals court disqualified Fani Willis because of an appearance of impropriety. You think? Fani Willis had an illicit affair with Nathan Wade, who was married. The top prosecutor she hired to hunt Trump down on a RICO and conspiracy case against the former president. Nathan Wade, who had no prior history of bringing a RICO case. He was basically a traffic attorney, getting people out of speeding tickets and things like that. Pretty entry level. Like I said, another person with very little to lose, obviously very low morals and a lot to gain if successful in getting Trump, right? Nathan Wade was paid more than $600,000 as special prosecutor, which I don't think he had to give any of that back. While he was whining and dining Fani Willis and paying for lavish vacations for them. That's right. That's how it went. She wasn't paying for it. He was paying for it, but she was paying him lavish amounts of money, right? Way above the status quo, the going rate, especially considering he had no history, no experience. Earlier this year, shortly before Trump was sworn into the office, the Georgia Supreme Court declined to review Fani Willis's appeal to reinstate the lawfare case. So good. Put her on her heels too. Anybody that went after Trump with bullcrap to play politics, to prevent him from, to make him in an attempt to not be able to run for president, which we needed him to win so desperately, go get him. Go get them. They try to obfuscate the law in their favor, trying to put innocent people in prison. And, you know, anybody else that these people prosecuted probably deserve a retrial. I don't know. I know if I was somebody that was thrown in prison by Fani Willis during this time, I'd be like, her? We're gonna what? You know what I mean? I want a retrial. We're just going to bog down the court system even more. But good, put them on their heels. Eye for an eye. I love it. Also, the DOJ is suing 6 states over refusal to share voter roll maintenance records while we're on election stuff. The U.S. Department of Justice announced Thursday that it's filing, and we're on Pam Bondi doing stuff, right? The U.S. Department of Justice announced Thursday that it's filed federal lawsuits against 6 states, California, Michigan, Minnesota, New York, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania, for refusing to provide statewide voter registration lists upon request. Clean voter rolls are the foundation of free and fair elections, said Attorney General Pamela Bondi. Every state has a responsibility to ensure that voter registration records are accurate, accessible, and secure. States that don't fulfill that obligation will see the Department of Justice in court. Now, let's see here. What are they again? California, red, not red, blue state. Michigan, blue. Minnesota, blue. Well, maybe. Didn't Trump win one of those? Maybe I'm wrong. New York, definitely blue. New Hampshire, blue. Pennsylvania was red this year, but barely. I remember correctly, right? It's been a year. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, who leads the DOJ's Civil Rights Division, emphasized the broader importance of the effort. Quote, states are required to safeguard American elections by complying with our federal elections laws, Dillon said. Clean voter rolls protect American citizens from voting fraud and abuse and restore their confidence that their state's elections are conducted properly, with integrity and in compliance with the law. Let's go. The new lawsuit comes on the heels of earlier legal action targeting Oregon and Maine alongside their secretaries of state for allegedly refusing to comply with federal voter registration requirements. Quote, states simply cannot pick and choose which federal laws they will comply with, including our voter laws, which ensure that all American citizens have equal access to the ballot in federal elections. Dillon's, and they do. Drive your butt to the polling station and vote. That's it. Everybody has that opportunity. Simple as that. Dillon said in announcing those suits, the only thing that I would be okay with making election day and all election days potentially, well, I say a national holiday, but definitely the big election's a national holiday. But I don't know. It's equally as important that we vote in the smaller elections, and that's a little bit grayer of an area. You can't have like little parts of town just get that day off. I guess maybe you can. I don't know. In the smaller elections, but make sure we're voting in all the local tertiary elections as well. Those are actually maybe even more important and have more impact on our own individual lives. But where'd I leave off? American citizens have a right to feel confident in the integrity of our electoral process, and the refusal of certain states to protect their citizens against vote dilution will result in legal consequences. Go get them. The lawsuit against Oregon and Secretary of State Tobias alleges violations. Oh, Tobias Reed. Okay. Sorry. State Tobias Reed alleges violations of the National Voter Registration Act and Help America Vote Act and the Civil Rights Act of 1960. The Justice Department claims Oregon withheld a current unredacted electric copy of its voter registration list, refused to disclose voter list maintenance procedures, and declined to provide data on ineligible voters. Oregon is especially notable because it has pioneered universal vote by mail elections statewide in 2000, a system under which registered voter automatically receives a ballot by mail, which is crazy. Automatically receives a ballot by mail. That's just out of control. Election holiday each 2 years in November. I would say that would be acceptable. That'd be the acceptable one. But then we just have to make sure that we're still getting out for the other ones. Wolf's friend, yeah. I'd also be okay with removing the R and the D from the people's names on the ballot. Make people know who they're voting for. I think would be a really important step to take, which will never happen. It'll never happen. The Democrats would never allow that to happen. So the suit against Maine and Secretary of State Shinna Bellows makes similar claims, asserting that the state violated federal law by refusing to disclose details on removing ineligible voters and declining to release an unredacted computerized voter registration list. Maine is not a full vote-by-mail state, but does allow no-excuse absentee voting, with a significant share of ballots cast by mail. Both Oregon and Maine, according to the DOJ, previously provided identical information to a private organization while rejecting federal requests, a move federal officials say undermines transparency and violates federal election law. Well, disqualify all of those votes. If they don't comply by federal laws, how can you allow these states to obfuscate the law and not be transparent with the authorities who oversee it on the federal level? Because it disenfranchises every other state, every other citizen in all those states. You have to disqualify them, and those people whose vote don't count, guess who they get to blame? The state that they live in. That's the only way that you can handle that. And why would any state not be transparent in these numbers? Because they know they're hiding stuff. They know they're doing stuff that they shouldn't be. That's the only reason why you'd hide it. If you're not doing anything wrong, what do you have to hide? Right? It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious. They'd rather waste your dollars, waste your time, and protect their liars. Washington State has also been drawn into the dispute, though not yet sued. Secretary of State Steve Hobbs announced on September 23rd that he would provide the DOJ with only the voter registration data already considered public under state law, while refusing to turn over protected personal information such as our last 4 digits of our social security numbers, driver's license numbers, and full date of birth, which he claimed are exempt from disclosure. Whatever. As Washington State Chief Elections Officer, I take my duty to protect voters and the sensitive information they entrust with the state very seriously, Hobbs said. Well, I mean, how many times has the state been hacked? You know what I'm saying? It just makes me wonder, like, are you really protecting the stuff, or are you just choosing to be difficult? Hobbs said, while we will provide the DOJ with the voter registration data and the state law already makes public, will not compromise on the privacy of Washington voters by turning over confidential information. Both the state and federal law prohibit us from disclosing. Hobbs also raised concerns about the Justice Department's shifting explanation for why it wants access to state over voter files. Well, they probably said no the first time, so they're like, well, then this reason as well. No, well, then this other reason as well. You're like, you guys are shifting your explanation. It's like, no, request 1 still stands. We're just giving you request 2 and 3 on top of those. That's my assumption. Such use, Hobbs warns, could raise significant legal questions under the Federal Privacy Act of 1974, which requires strict protections when creating or maintaining federal systems of records. Quote, our office is committed to transparency and accountability in elections, Hobbs said, but transparency does not mean putting the personal information of every Washington voter at risk. The law is clear, and my responsibility is to the voters of the state. Okay. Well, whenever you do that, and then the federal entity says, it's Washington's votes don't count on the electoral level, those people that he's representing can blame him. But across all 8 cases, the Justice Department is invoking the NVRA, HAVA, and the CRA, which collectively empower the Attorney General to enforce voter registration laws, demand records, and ensure that the states maintain accurate and accessible voter lists. And, you know, that's something that Trump does. He tests the system. And so I love it. Invoke these powers and test the system to see where it goes, because I think it's plain as day. If these states aren't going to be transparent, then they can't participate in the game. If you can't prove that you're not taking steroids, if you're a baseball team, if you're a football team, and your players just choose not to take the PED test, well, guess what? You forfeit all your games and you're not going to play. Simple as that. Simple as that. Wolf says, but each state sets their own election laws. The problem is with the votes for federal government officials. Yeah, but still, there has to be some kind of level of requirements on the federal level to participate in the event in the first place. Yeah, you can hold your own fancy state law. You know, you can run your election by your state law, but if it's not compliant, if it's not transparent, then we're not going to allow your one state who is the outlier to participate in the thing that the rest of the states are participating in. I would rather disenfranchise the citizens of one state because of their own elected leadership than the 49 other states who are doing it right. But I do get that. They set their own election laws. And I'm fine with that. Although I think unsolicited mail-in ballots is a completely horrible idea. Some states need to just be put back in check, right? So finally, I want to end with this. Where'd it go? Okay. So Bill Maher says Dems don't stand for anything other than opposing Donald Trump. Fortunately, I don't think this video is going to play, but I can read through some of it. During the Outline Overtime segment of Friday's broadcast on HBO's Real Time, host Bill Maher discussed polling numbers about who voters prefer on different issues, and stated that while some of the issues Democrats have are due to people being misinformed, Democrats also don't have anything they stand for other than opposing Donald Trump. Bill Maher says Trump's numbers are down. They're down with Latinos. They're down with blacks. They're down 15 points with whites. And yet, in the other poll on issues, Trump's still winning. So this is your big opportunity, Democrats. He's down in numbers, and you still can't score. He added, now, some of this is just because people are effing stupid, and cited Democrats only having 2-point polling edge on respect for democracy as an example of this. After Maher read from the polling data, CNN host Michael Schmerkenish said, quote, the only thing Democrat Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump. And Maher responded, yeah. Schmerkenish added that former Vice President Kamala Harris' recent book has no plan for Democrats in the future, which is indicative of the party at large, which Maher also agreed with. I wish I could have played that video, but it is what it is. So now Bill Maher has an unexpected rant at three stories here. Bill Maher's unexpected rant targets a crisis ignored by the media. So this article originally appeared by VigilanteFox.com and was republished with permission. Okay, so something terrible is happening in Nigeria, and too few Americans, even Republicans, know it exists. So for years, Nigeria has been one of the most dangerous countries in the world to be a Christian. Radical groups like Boko Haram and Fulani militants have waged relentless campaigns of terror, massacring villages, kidnapping women and children, and destroying churches. According to leading human rights groups, over 15 million Christians have been displaced since 2009, tens of thousands killed, and more than 19,000 churches burned to the ground. Survivors describe a systemic attempt to erase Christianity from vast religions of the country. Yet, the Democrats want to talk about Gaza. That's another story, right? We're not talking about that right now, but Christian persecution in Nigeria, 1,200 churches destroyed annually, hundreds killed. So despite these staggering numbers, the story rarely breaks into Western headlines, and the silence has left millions unaware of the scale of the crisis. However, that chilling reality got exposed on Bill Maher's show on Friday, so this is surprising. Maher, a proud atheist, had a surprising moment on air when he called out the slaughter of Christians that the media ignores. Quote, if you don't know what's going on in Nigeria, your media sources suck, Maher said blatantly. Now let's hear about this.
Nigeria, I mean, the fact that this issue has not gotten on people's radar.
Right, no one's talking about it.
It's pretty amazing. If you don't know what's going on in Nigeria, your media sources suck. You are in a bubble. And again, I'm not a Christian, but they are systematically killing the Christians in Nigeria. They've killed over 100,000 since 2009. They burned 18,000 churches. This is so much more. These are their Islamists, Boko Haram. This is so much more of a genocide attempt than what is going on in Gaza. They are literally attempting to wipe out the Christian population of an entire country. Where are the kids protesting this?
Because it's more popular to hate Israel than it is to hate Nigeria, I guess.
We'll talk about it, so thank you.
Absolutely.
But for once, this story got the attention it deserved, and it took a classic liberal like Bill Maher, not the media, to put a spotlight on one of the greatest humanitarian crises of our time. So kudos to Bill Maher for bringing this up, standing up for Christians as an atheist who thinks we're stupid for believing in God. This came as a total surprise. But nevertheless, I'll give him his respect for bringing it up, saying it. And then finally, this is the last one from Bill Maher, and I'll wrap the show after this. I think. Yeah. So you can't just say shit. Bill Maher takes a sledgehammer to every dangerous and insane idea Democrats have pushed on the masses over the past several years. This is funny. He has a picture of him next to the 2 + 2 = 5. This was refreshing. Far left mouthpiece Bill Maher took a sledgehammer to every dangerous and lunatic idea Democrats have come up with over the past several years and forced down the throats of decent Americans. And I think there's a video here. Okay.
If we are ever going to get back to the old America, that's got to be the Democrats' part of the bargain. Stop coming up with radically new and often terrible ideas, and then in the next breath, insist there be no debate about any of it. That if you don't see it right away and go along, you're bad, stupid, and deplorable. As if you were saying, duh, 2 + 2 = 5. Isn't that obvious? Yeah, it's obvious you can't add.
Well, math is racist.
You can't just say shit. Math is racist. Queers for Palestine. Looting is cool. Healthy at any weight. If the men's football team played the women's team, it would be a tie. You can't just say shit.
I love it. But that's maybe indicative of the culture flipping a little bit. You used to have to push the Democrat crazy narratives that he's mentioning here, otherwise to kick you out of the group, right? Maybe the tides are turning a little bit. Christians are being, they're not the laughing stock, I guess, that they're always so easy to, you can always make it, you can say whatever you want about Christians, right? But you can't say anything about other, the Muslims or anything like that, right? So the jokes were always coming out. Yeah, math is way. Queers for Palestine. People know what happens to gays over there, right? This is a very common sense things that the left makes gray. Just like they do with men versus women. It's really easy. A kid can figure it out. A kid knows it. And then they have to be re-taught and indoctrinated by these crazy things. And that's why I'm so happy that Trump won this last election. I mean, could you imagine? I don't even want to try to imagine it. I'm not going to put it in your head, but what if Kamala Harris won? Like, where would we be at right now as a society? It would be so bad. So bad. So anyways, I'm going to wrap it up there. I really hope you guys appreciated this video. I had fun talking with you guys. It'd been a few days. Let's see here. Christians will be the Chrislam. Yeah. Yeah, it's a horrifying thought, that's for sure. So I wanted to pull up the YouVersion Bible app, give you guys the verse of the day. We'll get out of here. So today's verse of the day is Hebrews 4:9. This is from the NIV version. There remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. And I believe it's one of the 10 Commandments. Maybe it's not. Now I'm questioning myself, but to keep holy the Sabbath or whatever. And so, we're designed to take that day of rest. And I don't know if it's supposed to be Saturday or Sunday, but I'm taking it tomorrow on Sunday. And I'll be back on Monday. At the regular time. Remember, you can catch me on my regular schedule Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. But I have been mixing in some Sunday, Tuesday. Yeah, Sunday, Tuesday shows as well. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. I want to continue to grow the show, and that's the best way of doing it, by doing on more days. I may switch the times on some of those days just to test out how that goes. And nevertheless, I appreciate everybody for being here. Once again, thank you, TNT, for the $21 super chat for my 21st anniversary of being married. That was a nice thought, and I really sincerely appreciate that. Thank you to all the members. Thank you to, I would say thank you to Chris for moderating, but I don't think he was here tonight. But we didn't need the moderator, so that's great. And remember to like, share, subscribe, follow whatever platform you're on. I'm on X, Rumble, YouTube. YouTube is the place to be because that's where the best chat is. And then you can always join the Discord. That link is in the description if you want to plug in more to the community. But yeah, with that, I will see you guys on Wednesday. I hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend.
Fire in the jar, yeah, the fuse is TNT. Blowing up the lies, bringing truth to the street. JB storms rolling, thunder in the sky. The captain steers steady, keeping freedom alive. It's the Joe Bino's podcast. Turn it up loud, the signal's gonna last. Is it just me, or are we putting it on blast? From shadows to spotlight, we're calling the play name by name, but we're louder this way. King is here now, so we can start the show. If you're short on dirty money, put it on Jamie's tab. Go when a troll slips in the chat. We ask Steve, is that you? Don't spam the chat, or Chris will give you the boot. It's the Joe Bino's podcast. Turn it up loud, the signal's gonna last. Is it just me, or are we putting it on blast? From shadows to spotlight, we're calling the play name by name, but we're louder this way. Earl's daughter speaks the truth, Bill shows no fear. We give up the crown when Andrea gets here. Elmo did it for a Klondike bar, now everybody knows his name. Cool Vic laughing, Ricky sparks a flame, Ruth lights the candle steady. Nate fans embers bright, Dan McKnight holds the line, Tyler calls the game tonight.